The snow fell in sheets outside Rosewood Cafe, each flake catching the amber glow of string lights wrapped around frost-covered windows. Inside, the air smelled of cinnamon and espresso, and Mara Chen sat alone at a corner table, watching the door with diminishing hope. Her best friend Jackie had promised this blind date would be different, that this one wouldn't ghost her, wouldn't make excuses, wouldn't check their phone every 30 seconds before mumbling something about an early morning. 20 minutes past the agreed time, Mara's untouched peppermint mocha had gone lukewarm, a skin forming on the surface like her disappointment. She should have known better. Christmas Eve seemed designed to remind people like her that romance happened to other people, the ones who looked right in photographs, who said clever things without rehearsing them in their heads first. She reached for her coat, ready to salvage what remained of her dignity, when the cafe door opened and a woman stepped inside. She was striking in a way that made Mara forget to breathe. Tall, with dark hair that fell past her shoulders and pale skin that seemed to drink in the cafe's warm light without reflecting it. She wore a long black coat dusted with snow, and her eyes swept the room with a predator's casual assessment before settling on an empty table near the window. Not her date, then. Just another person seeking shelter from the storm. Mara looked away, feeling foolish for the flutter of hope that had lifted in her chest, and pulled on her coat with hands that trembled slightly from more than just cold. She was halfway to the door when she heard it. A small voice, high and clear as a bell. "Excuse me, are you leaving because you're sad?" Mara turned. A child stood beside her table, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with the same dark hair as the woman by the window, the same impossible pallor. She wore a red velvet dress that belonged in a Victorian painting and patent leather shoes that clicked against the wooden floor. Her eyes were too large for her face, too knowing, and they held Mara's with uncomfortable intensity. "I'm sorry," Mara managed. "You smell sad," the girl said matter-of-factly, "like rain and salt. Were you supposed to meet someone?" Heat crept up Mara's neck. The entire cafe could probably hear this conversation, including the beautiful woman who was now looking their way with an expression Mara couldn't read. "It's complicated," she said, trying for a smile that felt like it might crack her face. "Grown-up stuff." "Grown-ups are silly about love," the girl announced. She tilted her head, studying Mara with that unnerving focus. "They wait for the wrong people and ignore the right ones. They make rules that don't make sense." Before Mara could formulate a response that was both honest and appropriate for a child, the woman from the window appeared beside them. Up close, she was even more arresting. Her features had a sculptural quality, all elegant, planes and sharp angles, and when she spoke, her voice carried an accent Mara couldn't place, something old and European. "Lydia," she said, and though her tone was mild, the girl straightened immediately. "We discussed this. You can't simply approach strangers." "But she was leaving sad, Mama," Lydia protested. "And it's Christmas Eve. Nobody should be alone and sad on Christmas Eve." The woman's gaze shifted to Mara, and the weight of it was extraordinary. Mara felt seen in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying, as if this stranger could perceive every failure, every loneliness, every secret fear she'd ever harbored. "I apologize for my daughter," the woman said. "She has very strong opinions about emotional justice." There was something in her voice, a weariness or perhaps a loneliness that matched Mara's own, and it made her brave. "She's not wrong," Mara heard herself say. "I was stood up, again. I was just leaving before the pity settled in too deep." The woman's expression shifted, something like understanding passing across her features. Then you have excellent timing. We were just about to order hot chocolate. Would you care to join us? Consider it an antidote to pity. It was absurd. She didn't know these people. The child was strange and the mother was probably just being kind. And Mara should politely decline and go home to her cat and her streaming queue like a sensible person. But Lydia was already tugging at her hand with surprising strength, and the woman was gesturing to their table by the window. And somehow Mara found herself sitting down, her coat draped over the chair, her abandoned mocha forgotten. "I'm Mara," she offered. "Vivian," the woman replied, and when their hands touched in greeting, Mara felt a shock of cold that traveled up her arm. Vivian's fingers were like ice, and she withdrew them quickly, something apologetic flickering in her dark eyes. "Poor circulation," she murmured. "And this is Lydia, as you've discovered." Lydia was already chattering about the snow, about how it was the first real snow of the season, about how her mama had promised they could walk through the park if it kept falling like this. She spoke with the vocabulary of someone much older, using words like crystalline and ephemeral, and Mara found herself charmed despite the strangeness of it all. Vivian ordered hot chocolate for 3, and when it arrived, Lydia doctored hers with an alarming amount of whipped cream while Vivian simply wrapped her hands around her cup as if trying to absorb its warmth. Mara noticed she never actually drank from it, just held it, her slender fingers curving around the ceramic. "So," Vivian said, "what manner of fool stands up a woman who has eyes like yours on Christmas Eve?" The compliment landed like a gift Mara hadn't known she wanted. "Someone who probably did me a favor," she managed, "though it doesn't feel like it yet." "Heartbreak is a strange mercy," Vivian said, her gaze distant. "It closes doors we lack the courage to close ourselves." There was a story there, Mara sensed, layers of history in those words. Before she could pursue it, Lydia interrupted. "Mama's been alone for a very long time," she announced with a child's brutal honesty. "She says she's too different for regular people, but I think she's just scared." "Lydia." Vivian's voice held a warning note, but color had risen in her pale cheeks, making her look almost human. Almost. "I'm sorry," Lydia said, though she didn't sound particularly sorry. "But it's true, and you like her. I can tell." The silence that followed was excruciating. Mara stared into her hot chocolate, watching the marshmallows dissolve, unsure whether to laugh or flee or acknowledge the truth that hummed in the air between them. She did like Vivian. Impossibly, inexplicably, she was drawn to this strange, cold, beautiful woman who spoke like someone from another century. "My daughter," Vivian said carefully, "has not yet learned the value of subtlety." "I think she's perfect," Mara said, surprising herself. She looked up, meeting Vivian's eyes. "And for what it's worth, I don't think you're too different. I think different is underrated." Something shifted in Vivian's expression, a wall lowering. "You don't know me," she said softly. "You might feel differently if you did." "Maybe," Mara agreed. "Or maybe I'd feel the same. But I'd like the chance to find out." Lydia was grinning now, bouncing slightly in her seat. "Does this mean you'll come to the park with us? Please? Mama never meets anyone nice, and you're nice, I can tell. You have a warm smell, like bread and honey." Mara should ask what that meant. Should probably be concerned about a child who talked about people's smells. But Vivian was looking at her with something like hope, and the snow was still falling outside, and the cafe was warm and bright and full of possibility. I'd like that, Mara said. They walked through Riverside Park as midnight approached, Lydia running ahead to catch snowflakes on her tongue while Mara and Vivian followed at a slower pace. Their hands brushed once, twice, and the third time, Vivian caught Mara's fingers and held them, her grip still cold, but somehow right. The park was transformed by snow, every branch and bench and lamppost draped in white. The city sounds muffled to a gentle hush. It felt like walking through a snow globe, separate from the rest of the world. "There's much about me that would frighten you," Vivian said quietly, her eyes on Lydia's dancing figure ahead. "Things I can't easily explain." "Then don't," Mara said. "Not tonight. Tonight, let's just be two people walking in the snow." Vivian's smile was luminous. Two people who might become three, if Lydia has her way. "She's persuasive," Mara admitted. "I wonder where she gets it." They walked in comfortable silence for a while, Lydia occasionally circling back to show them a particularly perfect snowflake or to tug them toward the frozen pond, where ice skaters had been earlier in the day. The little girl seemed tireless, her energy undiminished by the late hour or the cold. Mara found herself wondering about them, these strange and captivating people who had appeared in her life, like a gift she hadn't asked for but desperately needed. "How long have you lived in the city?" Mara asked, trying for normalcy. Vivian's lips quirked. "A very long time, though we've been away for the past decade. We only returned this autumn." "What brought you back?" "Lydia," Vivian said simply. She wanted to experience a proper city Christmas, snow and lights and crowds of people celebrating. Where we were before was beautiful but isolated. Too isolated, perhaps. There was loneliness in those words, a depth of it that made Mara's chest ache. She squeezed Vivian's hand gently. "I'm glad you came back." "So am I," Vivian murmured, increasingly so. Above them, church bells began to ring, marking Christmas Day. Lydia ran back to them, her face bright with joy, and caught both their hands. "It's magic," she whispered. "Can you feel it?" And standing there between a strange child and a woman she'd met less than 2 hours ago, Mara realized she could. Not the magic of vampires or supernatural beings, which she didn't yet know to name, but the simpler magic of connection, of being seen and choosing to stay. The snow fell around them like a blessing, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, Mara Chen wasn't alone on Christmas. "We should get you home," Vivian said eventually, though she sounded reluctant. "It's late and the snow is getting heavier." "I don't want to go," Mara admitted. The honesty surprised her, but it felt right. Everything about this night felt right in a way nothing had in months. "Then don't," Lydia said brightly. "Come home with us. We have a big house and lots of rooms, and Mama makes the best hot chocolate, much better than the cafe." "Lydia," Vivian began, but Mara was already nodding. "I'd like that," she said, "if it's not too much trouble." Vivian's expression was unreadable. "You trust us very easily." "I trust what I feel," Mara said, "and I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be." Something flickered in Vivian's dark eyes, wonder perhaps, or fear. "Very well," she said softly, "but I must warn you. Our home is unusual. We are unusual. If at any point you wish to leave, you need only say so." They hailed a cab, and Lydia chattered the entire ride while Vivian sat silent, her hand still clasped in Mara's. The brownstone they arrived at was in a neighborhood Mara didn't recognize. Tree-lined and elegant, the kind of place that spoke of old money and older secrets. Inside, the house was magnificent. High ceilings and dark wood paneling, Antique furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum, and everywhere books. Shelves upon shelves of them, climbing the walls, filling every available space. "I love it," Mara breathed. Vivian smiled. "I'm glad. Books are my weakness. I can never pass a bookshop without emerging with an armful." "How long have you been collecting?" Mara asked, running her fingers along a shelf of leather-bound volumes. "Longer than you might imagine," Vivian said, and there was something in her voice that made Mara pause. Lydia had disappeared upstairs, and now Mara and Vivian stood alone in the library, the air between them charged with unspoken things. "I should tell you," Vivian began, then stopped, started again. "I should tell you what we are, what I am, before this goes any further." Mara's heart hammered. "Okay." "I'm afraid," Vivian admitted, "that you'll run, that you'll look at me differently. But Lydia is right. I'm tired of being alone. I'm tired of hiding." She took a breath she didn't need, an old habit. "We're vampires, Mara. Lydia and I. We have been for a very long time." The words hung in the air between them. Mara should laugh, should back away, should do any number of sensible things. Instead, she found herself thinking of Vivian's cold hands, Lydia's two knowing eyes, the way neither of them had eaten or drunk anything despite ordering, the way they moved with an inhuman grace. The pieces clicked into place. "How long?" she asked. "For me, nearly 3 centuries, Vivian said. "Lydia is younger. I found her abandoned, turned and left alone, and I couldn't bear it. So I became her mother in all the ways that matter." 300 years, Mara repeated. The number was incomprehensible. "You've been alone for 300 years?" "Not always alone," Vivian said, "but never like this. Never with someone who made me want to stop hiding." Mara crossed the space between them. Up close, she could see the truth of it now. The preternatural stillness, the way Vivian's chest didn't rise and fall with breath, the slight luminescence of her skin. "I'm not afraid," she said, and realized it was true. "I'm really not." "You should be," Vivian whispered. "I could hurt you so easily." "But you won't," Mara said with certainty. "I don't know how I know, but I do. You're not dangerous to me." Vivian's laugh was shaky. "You're extraordinary. Do you know that?" Before Mara could answer, Lydia appeared in the doorway, now wearing pajamas printed with bats. "Did you tell her?" she asked eagerly. "Did she run away screaming?" "I told her," Vivian confirmed, "and no, she didn't run." "I knew she wouldn't," Lydia said smugly. "I told you, Mama. She's perfect for us." "Lydia, bed," Vivian said, but her voice was gentle. "You can properly terrorize Mara in the morning." Lydia bounded over and hugged Mara fiercely. "I'm glad you're staying," she whispered. "Mama needs someone. And I like you." After Lydia had disappeared upstairs, Vivian led Mara to a sitting room where a fire crackled in an enormous hearth. They sat together on a velvet sofa, close enough that Mara could feel the chill that emanated from Vivian's body. "Tell me," Mara said. "Everything. I want to know." And Vivian did. She spoke of her turning, of the decades of loneliness and learning, of finding Lydia and choosing love over isolation. She spoke of the costs and the gifts of immortality, of watching the world change, of the longing for connection that never faded no matter how many years passed. Mara listened, asking questions, processing impossibilities that felt increasingly possible in the warmth of that room. "Why me?" she asked finally. "Why risk revealing yourself to me?" Vivian was quiet for a long moment. Because when you looked at me in that cafe, you didn't see a monster or a mystery. You saw a woman. Just a woman who might be worth knowing. And I haven't felt seen like that in longer than I can remember. I do see you, Mara said. She reached out, cupping Vivian's cold cheek. And I want to keep seeing you, if you'll let me. Vivian leaned into the touch, her eyes closing. I'm afraid of hurting you, of this becoming complicated, of you regretting this choice. Then we'll figure it out together, Mara said. I don't need perfect, I just need real. Vivian opened her eyes, and in them Mara saw centuries of loneliness beginning to thaw. You're certain? I've never been more certain of anything, Mara said, and meant it. Vivian kissed her then, soft and careful, her lips cold, but her intent warm. Mara felt the kiss in her bones, in her blood, in the rapid flutter of her very human heart. When they parted, both were breathless for different reasons. Stay, Vivian whispered. Not just tonight. Stay. Yes, Mara said simply. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the city in white. Inside, two women who had been strangers hours ago held each other, beginning something that would span far longer than either could imagine. And upstairs, a little vampire girl smiled in her sleep, knowing that her mama would finally not be alone. The days that followed Christmas were a revelation. Mara called in to work, claiming a family emergency that wasn't entirely untrue, since she was in the process of becoming part of a very unusual family. Vivian showed her the rhythms of their life, the careful balance of existing in a human world while being fundamentally other. Lydia appointed herself Mara's guide to vampire etiquette, solemnly explaining things like why they couldn't have garlic in the house and demonstrating how fast she could move when she wanted to. We're not all the stories, Vivian explained one evening as they sat in the library. Sunlight won't kill us, though it's uncomfortable. Crosses and holy water are meaningless. We can't turn into bats, which Lydia finds deeply disappointing. I wanted wings, Lydia confirmed from her spot on the floor where she was drawing. Wings would be excellent. Mara learned that they fed from blood banks, that Vivian had established a network of contacts who ensured they never went hungry, that neither of them had ever killed. I couldn't, Vivian said quietly. I was turned against my will. I won't inflict that on others. What about Lydia? Mara asked. Her maker abandoned her immediately after turning her, Vivian said, and her voice went cold with fury. I found her 3 days later, terrified and alone, with no understanding of what she'd become. So I taught her. I loved her. I gave her what my own maker never gave me. Mara reached for Vivian's hand. You're a good mother. I try, Vivian said, though I suspect having a mortal in the house will present new challenges. Good challenges, though, Mara said. The kind worth having. As the week progressed, Mara found herself folding into their life with surprising ease. She worked remotely from Vivian's home office, had video calls with Jackie where she carefully edited out the vampire revelations, and spent her evenings with Vivian and Lydia as if she'd always belonged there. Jackie did notice the change, though. You sound different, she said during one call. Happier. Did something happen with the blind date? You could say that, Mara hedged. Just not the date you set up. Tell me everything, Jackie demanded. Her name is Vivian, Mara said, unable to stop the smile that spread across her face. She has a daughter. They're extraordinary. What she didn't say was that Vivian was teaching her about immortality, about the weight of centuries, about choosing to keep living when death was no longer a natural end. What she didn't say was that Lydia had started calling her almost Mama, and it made her heart ache with joy. What she didn't say was that she was falling in love with the impossible. New Year's Eve found them on the roof of the brownstone, bundled in blankets even though only Mara needed the warmth. Lydia had been allowed to stay up, and she sat between them, chattering about her resolutions. "I want to read 100 books," she announced, "and learn to paint, and help Mama be less lonely." "I'm not lonely anymore," Vivian said softly, her eyes on Mara. Mission accomplished. As midnight approached, Lydia went inside to watch the ball drop on TV, leaving Mara and Vivian alone under the stars. "A week ago, I was sitting alone in a cafe, convinced I was unlovable," Mara said. "Now I'm here with you, and everything has changed." "Do you regret it?" Vivian asked. "The complications this will bring?" "Never," Mara said fiercely. "You're not a complication, Vivian. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." "I love you," Vivian said, the words falling between them like snow. "I know it's too soon. I know we should wait. But I'm 300 years old, and I've never felt this before. And I need you to know." "I love you too," Mara said, and kissed her as fireworks began to explode across the city, painting the sky in gold and silver. They broke apart as Lydia came racing back. "It's next year," she shouted. "And you're still here. That means you're staying forever, right?" "If you'll have me," Mara said. "Forever sounds perfect." Vivian pulled them both close, and there on that rooftop, under a sky full of light, they became what they were always meant to be: a family, chosen, strange, impossible, and absolutely real. The city celebrated below them, unaware that in one brownstone, 3 hearts, one of them still beating, had found each other against all odds. And as the new year began, Mara Chen knew with absolute certainty that she would never be alone again. She had been rejected on a Christmas blind date, yes, but a little vampire girl had walked over and claimed her, and in doing so had given her everything she'd ever wanted. Not the life she'd planned, but the one she needed. The one she deserved. The one that would last, in one form or another, for as long as love existed in the world.